everybody. Robin here, and welcome to Toadstool Tarot. I hope everybody's keeping warm and dry. We're in January 10th, about a third of the way through January already. Everything's going so fast. Feels like it was just Christmas or even before Christmas. And now we're past New Year's by 10 days. Crazy, right? How's the weather where you are? In New York, it's not as cold as it has been. It's about 44 today, and it's rainy. It's dreary. We are supposed to get snow later in the coming week, like next Thursday or something. So we'll see what happens there. I hope everybody's warm and dry and has a beverage. Let me know what it's like where you are and what you're drinking. Let's see who's here today. Of course, we have Marilyn's Tarot Take, first in the box. Welcome. Snowing where she is. And Simon, hello. He's here for the Lisboa Tarot. Let's see. Who else is here? Will's Tarot Path. Hi, welcome. SRAI Tarot. Is Marilyn in Michigan? Let's see. Marangels? Oh, they live in Lisboa. Oh, interesting. Haven't seen the deck, apparently. Nothing so strange. Welcome. Simon's freezing. SRAI, it's snowing where they are. Very cold in Lisboa. Sunny and 50s in the desert. Warmer than usual, pouring rain. Will's got black coffee. Hi, Saskia Handley. Okay, I think that's everybody so far. Chime in the chat, of course, with your impressions. We're looking today at the Lisboa Tarot, which I have to throw credit in the direction of Simon. Simon made me do it. I tell you, of the tarots that he shares, I find about 5% of those of interest to me. So I am really very fussy and picky about the decks that I like and enjoy. But this one popped out and I was intrigued. Oh, hello, Sandra. Welcome. This is the Lisboa Tarot. I think it's by Red Feather. I think it's the very first Red Feather deck that I have. It's in a chunky little box, magnetic enclosure. And the colors on the cover are pretty much a good idea of the color palette in the deck. So the whole thing has a kind of a turquoise cast with a little bit of like lemon lime kind of green in it, and like spots of warmer colors. It's pretty soothing, actually, when you think about it. Now, inside the box, there's a little lip here that holds the booklet and a ribbon that's helpful to lift the cards and booklet out. So that's handy. I like the smallish box. My preference these days is 2-part boxes that I've only seen a few of, where the book is actually the same size as the cards. I really like that. This is a lot less unwieldy than, say, the old big Llewellyn boxes that take up your whole shelf. But it's a pretty nice size, but it's thick. The booklet is kind of chunky. It's all in English, and it's about 128 pages with a little bio in the back by the author, who is Beth Salonen. And she has done a few decks. The only other one that comes to mind, which had been gifted me some time ago, was, I think, called the Blue Cat Tarot or something, which was really unusual, but I'm not really much of a cat person, and I didn't find myself reaching for it, so I did kind of pass it on to somebody who was much more of a cat fan. But this one's very different style artwork than that one was. That was kind of like line oriented, and I think it was all like blue pastel or something. I'm not sure. This one is kind of like, this sort of has the look of oil pastels, I want to say. The illustrations are not completely sharply defined. I want to say crude, but then it's not really crude. It's its own kind of style. It actually reminds me of Impressionist paintings. And it also kind of made me think of Matisse, although Matisse is more from the Fauvist movement that followed Impressionism. But it's sort of like renderings in pastel street scenes of the streets of Lisbon. And what really made me want to do when I looked at the deck and looked at the cards and some of the architecture in the street scenes is it wanted me to buy a ticket to go visit Lisbon, Portugal. So I went online to YouTube and started just kind of looking for YouTube travel logs to just sort of check out what it looks like over there. And it turns out that they hosted in 2025 Euro Pride, which was the biggest representation of a gay pride festival, march, parade, whatever, celebration in all of Europe. So that's interesting. And apparently the two most gay or LGBTQ friendly cities in Portugal are Lisboa and Porto. So I'm kind of curious about that. When I looked at some of the videos of Lisbon, I just found it so beautiful. I love like little winding streets and alleys and red roofs everywhere. This sort of like terracotta looking red roofs. And it looks gorgeous. And I want to go now. I wonder whether any of you had been there, and whether anybody like Simon or Sandra, not that far away, whether you'd ever considered taking a European vacation down to Portugal. I also have friends that live not far away in Barcelona, Spain, and Portugal's sort of right across the sea from Morocco. So the whole thing seems very exotic. Simon says she's done so many cool decks. The vary in her art mediums. Sandra's favorite is the Guardian Tarot. I think that's the one where she has like tree-like people that look like sort of alien trees or something. Let's see. Sandra wouldn't mind, but hasn't actually been. Dream Raven Tarot is another favorite of Simon's. So it's kind of a thick deck. It's a little on the thick side. For me, it's a little bit unwieldy. And let's see, do I have a sample card to show the size? It is a little larger than average. You can see a sort of a standard tarot card that's a little taller, a little bit wider. The cards are thicker, and I know it's stock that people really like. It's not my favorite card stock. It's a little stiff, and uh, the cards are matte and kind of soft. They feel soft and nice. They're not as flexible as I prefer. And the fact that they're a little heavier card weight, I don't know how thick it is, but you can sort of gauge by the thickness of the deck. It looks to me like about quarter to half an inch thicker than say a U.S. Games deck or something. And to me, they're kind of, I don't know about this thickness of cardstock. It makes me think of drink coasters. I don't want my tarot decks and oracle decks to feel like coaster weight card. Now, it's great when you have a thicker card like that. It's great as its own kind of icon. And if you have little display stands or altars around your place, it's perfect for that kind of thing. But for me, tarot is not so much a display item as it is something that has to feel perfectly comfortable and tactile in your hands. It has to shuffle easily, and the cards need to glide easily. They tend to clump here. They don't really glide. You can see, like, just as I'm trying to scoot them around, they're in bunches. And I don't like that in a card deck. But that aside, the artwork is something special and different. Now, these are the backs. Oh, I should tell you, I don't have them in order. Sometimes I do deck walkthroughs and shares in order or in sequence. This time, and recently I thought, well, we'll break it up because people are kind of expecting to see them in sequence. And if you take it out of sequence, makes a little bit, shakes it up a little bit. But the other thing is I wanted to use the deck a little bit. And if I get a deck brand new and then I don't use it and I do a walkthrough, then I discover things later about it and wish I had taken the time to use it. So this one I've shuffled and used. And I'm going to have to shuffle it a lot more because, like I said, the cards clump, they don't glide. I don't find it an easy shuffler. And I think that's because I'm pretty much an overhand shuffler. It's a little thick for riffle shuffling, and I'm not a good riffle shuffler. Even with a regular deck, when I riffle shuffle, it kind of goes in clumps rather than individual cards. So not very refined in that practice yet. Sandra thought about getting the Dream Raven. Ravenous Tracon. Okay. So the back of the card is this reversible night sky thing. The cards are borderless. And here is the first card I have in my shuffled deck. It is the Six of Cups. You'll notice it's borderless, and they don't have labels on the bottom. They have labels on the side, which might bother some people. It's funny, as I shouldn't keep using the word crude, but for lack of a better word, maybe unrefined, that the images are, this gives us sort of a delicacy or a refinement in the font on the side that I kind of like. It in a way that if it wasn't for that, maybe these cards would tend to want a border. But I think they're okay without a border. And there's something about that Usually I wouldn't like something like that, an asymmetrical font down one side. But for some reason, this works for me. It just adds a little kind of delicate refinement to the image to have that style font in that color down the side like that. It almost kind of like blends into the background, but it's still like a little bit of a flourish, like a signature or something. And it really does put the emphasis, I think, on the imagery in the card. And yet it's still clear and easy to read the label. Although this is a very Rider-Waite-Smith deck, and I think all the cards you probably can read without the label. Marilyn wants to know if she's done any oracles. Cardstock is a tactile experience, and we all have our own preferences. I'm right there with you, Will. I like a thicker card. Will likes the heavy cardstock, but it's not a riffle shuffler. Okay. So this is what did I say? The Six of Cups. And I don't know, I'm not sure that looks like a young girl. It might be a young girl and a boy. They look a little bit older than we usually see in the Six of Cups. But it's sweet, it's gentle, it's soft, unthreatening, kind of reassuring. The next one I have is the Empress. These are matte. I mean, I'm getting just the slightest reflection glare from my lamp here, but it's a cheap lamp. But this is, a typical kind of Empress kind of image. The Page of Cups is a very young page. Also, I believe that Lisbon's near the water. So there are a lot of sort of watery, seaside kind of imagery scenes in this deck. The King of Cups has a religious kind of quality to it, sort of historical. Oh, this is pretty. You know what else this deck reminded me of? Some of the alleys in the building and the colors remind me of the surrealist Giorgio de Chirico. If you know his, he does paintings of a lot of buildings and alleyways in these colors, like oranges and salmon and brown and beige, and images running down the alleys in the shadows, and it's very similar. And I do love his paintings. So we have something that's like a combination of impressionist, surrealist, fauvist, but it's contemporary. She's a contemporary artist. So here we have the Eight of Swords. Saskia really likes the colors. Marilyn really likes this deck a lot. And it's very unusual for me. This is not the type of deck I generally gravitate towards. I think Simon said that he thought it was a gentle deck. And in that, I think I agree. And the deck that I sort of have as a gentle embrace deck is the Maraloon. And this has a very similar feel in a way. Now, this one's a little unusual. This is the Seven of Swords. And the outfit, the wardrobe, and the angle and everything is a little bit playful. I mean, this almost makes me think of like Cubist art. It's almost like a uniform or something, like So ringmaster from a circus or something. It also reminds me a little bit of the Tarot of Hearts, if you have that deck. 5 of Pentacles. We appear to have a nun here. And you can see the edges of the line work is not sharp, defined lines. It's, it's more like shading that you would get, or soft edging from a pastel or an oil pastel. It's not pen and ink work. It's not watercolor. It's not oils, It has a very distinct, soft kind of quality to it. Very much like, I think, the Impressionists, the sort of like quick impressions of light and shadow and color. The 8, strength. We have a courtyard statue on a plinth of a man with a lion. Marilyn loves that she uses slightly different art styles in her decks. 3 of Pentacles. That's interesting. Now, if you know the symbolism and the imagery in the RWS, you'll spot pretty quickly how it's paralleled in these designs. See, now the next card, I've got 2 stuck together. That's some of the issue I have with this card stock. So this is the 3 of Swords. 3 swords kind of woven into this metallic grill work or something, like might be on a fence or a balcony or something. 7, the Chariot. Eight, oh no, sorry, 13. Get my Roman numerals mixed up. Death. Not sure how I feel about this one. I don't know if I like that energy coming down from the sky in blue rectangles. I don't know quite what to make of that. But we do have a skeleton, death-like figure on a horse riding in. And I guess that is coming out of the clouds is possibly meant to be lightning. I'm not sure why it's blue rectangles, but definitely has a strong force coming in the figure's direction, and this sort of afterglow of fiery red in the background. Here's another one, the Knight of Pentacles, another statue on a platform near an arch. There's a couple cards in here, I think, that have an arch in them, which also makes me feel at home because I live right near the Washington Square Arch in New York City. We have a couple of arches here. I think there's one out in Brooklyn and one near me in Washington Square Park. And then, of course, you've got the Arc. Is it Arc de Triomphe? Is it in Paris? Here's the Fool, Naked Fool. The Magician. Temperance. This seems to be a larger than life figure over the land It's funny because this, like I said, this isn't ordinarily the kind of deck that I would buy, but I think it adds a little extra dimension to my collection. I'm kind of enjoying having an array of different kind of styles of artwork in my collection. And even though there are lots of beautiful decks out there in various styles, I tend not to want to have too many in the same style. I kind of like a cross section of different kinds of styles. We have the Nine of Wands. The Four of Swords, not in its usual reclining position, but seated in, a restful pose. I think that there's sort of a melancholy quality to this deck too, and you kind of see it in the attitude of the posture of this figure. Oh, this is interesting. There's a card missing a label. This is the Eight of Cups. Beth forgot to put the label on this card. Well, we know which card it is, but I think it's odd that she didn't include it here. $21 is the World. Five of Wands. And this is not a new deck. I think it came out in 2023. So were she to reprint, she might catch that and stick the label on that card that's missing it. What is that? The Five of Wands, yes. Just verifying what the card looks like. Five of Swords. You'll see how familiar the poses are in these scenes. And even though they're set in Portugal, they do mirror the poses from the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot. 10 of Pentacles. I'm hoping that with use of this deck, it will become more flexible and I'll be able to grab individual cards easier than right now when they all sort of clump. Sometimes if you bend or break in a deck a little bit, then the cards bow enough that you can grab individual cards off a little easier. Here's the Ace of Pentacles, one of the arches I was talking about. The Two of Pentacles. This is interesting, very watery for the Two of Pentacles. I wonder if this is meant to be, well, I was going to say it almost looks like a sculptural scroll and a statue that might appear on the top of a building, except for the color and also except for the waves and water underneath. That doesn't make sense. I don't know. This is a really unusual Nine of Swords. My sense is that this is a political figure in Portugal or some man in a high position of power or authority, because he does seem very imposing. Doesn't seem sort of like an average person that might be haunted by circumstance. He almost seems like he's the one that's doing the haunting, but Not sure. Queen of Wands. What's that phrase that when people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime? Something like that. I'm not sure what reason this deck came into my life, but I think it's here for a season. I sense it's not one here for a lifetime for me, but I'm enjoying it now in this season and maybe in the next season or two. And then beyond that, who knows? What do we got here? The Judgment card. Queen of Pentacles. Oh, you know who else this reminds me of a little bit ago? It reminds me a little bit of Scylla Conway's early art. Some of her, like the Byzantine tarot and the is it called Intuitive Tarot? I know two early decks of hers have sort of similar qualities to the way she painted her figures that remind me of this. I don't know. I think her more recent stuff is a little more abstract, so I'm not sure I could lay the same claim to her representation of figures now. But the early ones, like, ooh, this kind of reminds me of some of Simon's little travel excursions. And I want to go here. I want to walk down that alley and find the cafe at the end of it and just go hang out there. It's the Seven of Pentacles. Unusual Seven of Pentacles. Simon tarot hashtag on, I'm not sure what Simon did many years ago, 2018, just checked. Byzantine tarot is absolutely beautiful. I like it a lot. It's the only two that I have by her are the two I mentioned. Simon, your video was where I first saw this deck when I was watching all of your videos while I was so sick. The buildings and alleys in this deck remind me very much of the place where I live. Oh. Two of Wands. We got a purple building and a blue building. And that was another thing that I noticed in the video that I saw, not just the red roofs, but a lot of the buildings have interesting colors to them. It's a very colorful place, Lisbon. Justice. Queen of Cups. And I believe Beth did these during a long period that she spent living in Portugal. And this does feel kind of like, I can sort of envision her spending her days wandering out with a box of oil pastels and an easel and setting up on various streets or by the water and doing these little renderings fairly quickly, sort of capturing the light. Queen of Cups here. Eight of Pentacles. Obviously, all of these are not literal representations of 21st century. You know, this has a sort of a historical nod, a man in a towel or a toga. Where do you live, Saskia? What country are you in? Nine of Pentacles. Four of Wands. This little sort of a gazebo. Looks like it's in a park. It looks like where they would have some kind of little musical presentation. Or in an off time, someone could be married there. Oh, she's in Greece. Same sort of area. I mean, if you widen the region a bit. Portugal, Spain, Italy, Greece. I guess that is a pretty big area. Feels temperature-wise like it would be very, climate-wise, would be very similar. Ten of Wands. I love that we have a woman on a horse here, or I guess it's, I don't think it's a horse. It might be a donkey or something. No, burro. The Sun. If you spot any more that don't have titles on them, let me know that I miss. They do kind of blend in after a while. The Star. And the thing I like about the impressionist quality of these is they don't smack you in the face with their definition. There's a sort of a softness that if you were to lay this out in a spread to do a reading, it would allow, there's a certain way of doing readings when you look at cards that your vision kind of blurs over and you just kind of go into this neutral mode where you just sort of like don't sharply take in impressions, but just like there's this visual mood or ambience about the cards that comes in through your intuition that I think is really helpful when you do readings. It's not such an explicit image that, you really focus in on the fine detail. There's something nice about this sort of soft impression that lets you kind of like go into a daydreamy mode or mood in order to let some symbols kind of come to you subtly. I don't know if you know what I mean, but that's the way it works for me. The Moon. Ace of Swords. Two of Swords. It's funny. This reminds me of Stevie Wonder. I shouldn't say that because when you tell people stuff like that, then they see it and they can't get it out of their head. But, what the hell? Ten of Cups. Three of Cups. Four of Cups. Interesting. This is, Knight of Cups. I thought it said King. I was going to say we've got a female king. Well, even so, we've got a female knight, which is interesting. Six of Pentacles. Looks like some sort of a street vendor or barter exchange for goods. Flower seller, or what is that? Flowers? Vegetables? The foliage in this deck is interesting too. Page of Pentacles. Interesting kind of tree. Got some books under the tree. Wheel of Fortune. Page of Wands. I don't know. I don't care that much for this Page of Wands. It makes me think of the creepy baby in the sun, that card that we usually see, that everybody is rubbed the wrong way by. I'm not sure about this little blonde figure. Looks like a very, very young page, like a toddler. This is interesting. Ace of Wands. Ooh, I love this. I love this image. Now, this isn't what I think of as the Hierophant right off the bat, but I love the architecture and the color of this religious building. And why not? Why does it have to be a priest? Why can't it be the church or the chapel or the temple? Now here's the one from the cover of the box. This is the Lovers. Oh, well, we've got a gazebo again. Can't remember, what was that other gazebo? Was that the Four of Wands? Probably. Three of Wands. The Hermit. So I don't know if I completed my thought earlier when I was thinking about Beth spending time in Portugal, just positioning herself in different places, doing the art. This is like a souvenir of an adventure, a souvenir of time spent there. It's like when you guys go on your vacations, do you take a little sketchbook or a journal? Do you hang out in a cafe or park yourself in a park somewhere and make notes or do sketches or little color renderings? It's a very personal and special way of remembering things. Ace of Cups. It's interesting that it's Ace of Cups. It looks like a torch, a fiery Ace of Cups. Seven of Cups. Nine of Cups. Page of Swords. I think I like this deck. I think I would like it even better if it were, say, on linen cardstock and actual tarot size. Simon vlogs when he's on trips. King of Pentacles. My last trip, I did take watercolor pencils with me, but we weren't there very long, and I was preoccupied with other things and also not feeling well. So I didn't make time. I did make time to sit and do tarot, but I didn't make time to sit and, do art renderings. Maybe next time. I always overpack when I go places. I always take everything I think I'm ever going to need, more than I ever need, more than I ever use. Really could probably leave half of it at home. I'll take games with me to play. I'll take tarot. I'll take a journal. I'll take a little folding umbrella in case it rains. I'll have a scarf if it's too cold. I'll have a water bottle. I'll have a salty snack like a cracker, a sweet like a cookie, all in my shoulder bag. It's no wonder my shoulder bag weighs about 50 pounds. Here was the King of Wands. Six of Wands. Six of Swords. Knight of Swords. I just realized that the focus of my camera is like this deck. It's not really sharp. It's like, you can't see details in my complexion or imperfections. It's like blurred out a little bit, kind of the way the images are on these cards. Although it does seem like sharper up close. Like, see, I need my nails trimmed. Queen of Swords. It's also apparently extremely affordable to live in Portugal. I don't know if that's changing. What with the current global economic climate, I believe it's less than it was a couple of years ago, but still, I believe, affordable. Four of Pentacles. King of Swords. No, I don't know. I can't remember who is in the chat that lives in Portugal and if they're still with us or not, and whether this feels very familiar to them looking at these images, or whether it's too familiar, whether it's not a style that they would enjoy, or it really hits the spot. The Emperor. The Tower. The High Priestess. The Ten of Swords. Kind of an abrasive bright red there. No blood, but bright red wall. The Knight of Wands. Pardon me while the cards clump together. It's hard to grab them. Now, I've only done probably 3-4 readings with this since I've gotten it. And they all did pretty well, but I also kind of juggle a few decks when I go to the cafe and spend my time there. And I do have favorites that I'm drawn to that I use over and over again. In fact, One of the tags that I want to do fairly soon, I could ask Simon about this, whether he'd be willing to do a tag like this on his channel, is I want to do a tag called backup decks. Because some people, a lot of collectors buy backup copies of decks. And I'd be curious to see which are your backup decks. Now, I was thinking about mine, and off the top of my head, I can only think of 3 or 4 decks that I have backup copies of. Now, I do have many versions of the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot, but I don't really have maybe one backup set. I think I have a backup set of the Centennial in a tin, but only because I modified it and I didn't like my mod job on it, so I wanted to buy one intact. So that I don't consider that a backup. But it'd be interesting to me to see what you value to the extent that you need to have a backup of it. And I tend to only buy a backup if I'm totally in love with a deck and it's an independently produced thing, not mass produced, and I might damage it in some way, or there's a high risk of me losing it. Just something that I feel in my gut that I'm going to want to be using for a long, long time. So I buy a backup. So I recently just, I did a walkthrough a couple weeks ago, I think, of a Sigil Oracle Tarot. I can't remember the exact name of it, but I liked it so much, and it's so different from the other stuff I have, and I've been using it a lot, that I thought, oh, that's on Etsy, and it's an independent deck. I think it's on sale, and it's like $28, and I thought, I better grab another copy of this while I can still get it, because I have a feeling I'm using it so much, and I like it so much that I'd, be afraid not to have it. Now, there have been a couple of decks that I did have backups on, and they sort of fell out of favor, so I let the backup copy go, and I just have the original copy now. I just don't use them as much as I used to. Here we've got the Hanged Man. Sorry for wandering down a side alley here. 2 of Cups, we're almost done. 7 of Wands. 5 of Cups. I love the posture, the pose in this. Reminds me of the one in the 4 of Swords. This was a less comfortable pose. The Devil. And the last card, the 8 of Wands. Let's try to do since we have 6 minutes left, I'm going to try to do a riffle shuffle. And then I'm going to try to do a little reading. Oh, see what I get when I riffle shuffle. Not great. Try again. I guess the more I do it, a little bit better I get, but not so much. And now I'm kind of bending the cards. Let's cut the deck. Now that's something I don't usually do. And we have cards clumped together. We have the Page of Pentacles. Okay. Page of Pentacles. Bringing something new of value. introducing oneself to perhaps some new concepts, a new kind of deck, a different deck than what you're used to, something that you need to learn more about. This deck may bring into my collection a new perspective on things that will be of perhaps a different kind of value than what I'm used to. Second card, Six of Pentacles, more Pentacles. Six of Pentacles, sort of give and take, sharing with other people. I maybe need to do some readings either in person or online with other people to discuss what's involved in this particular deck, how it is to work with it, what value can be gained from that sort of sharing. Oh, and that pretty card, again, Pentacles, my goodness. The Seven of Pentacles. Okay, this is a pentacle heavy reading. I loved this card when I first saw it. The Seven of Pentacles, building on building on substance, building on material value, things of worth that lead you somewhere, that lead you down a blind alley to something richer. There's a door and a window at the end of this tunnel, leading you down here to something that will expand or explore your investigations. I'm liking this. I think that's a pretty good reading for today. So that is, or was, the Lisboa Tarot. I hope you got something out of that. Enjoy that. It's quite available. I got it quickly on Amazon. I think it was about $28, but I can't remember exactly. Thank you all for showing up today and hanging out, spending time with me, keeping warm and dry, and yeah, if the weather's anything like here where you are, it's a good day to be indoors, just at a table with a beverage and, looking at tarot, spending some time with your cards. Hello, Rolf. I don't know if you were here all along in the shadows or if you just popped in, but if you did just pop in, you might want to scroll back and spot check various cards in this deck if you don't have it, or if you do, to sort of compare impressions. All right, I'm going to let everybody go. It's 1:59. I'm going to duck over to Simon's channel and keep the conversation going. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you all next time. Bye.